Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. Listen up. WynnBET is now live in all these states, and the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas has finally landed in online sports betting and casino play. From boosted parlays to live in-game offs on every major sport, WynnBET gives you the tools to win. Sign up today for your risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning.
You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dummler, Broncos Country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
Welcome in, everybody. It is 6 o'clock, 6:02 Mountain Time, and that means it's Tuesday also, right? I keep getting my days mixed up. That means it's time for an episode of Building the Broncos, and I am joined once again today by my co-host and friend, Scott Kennedy, who joined me this morning for Broncos for Breakfast, but here we are now doing Building the Broncos. Scott, how you doing? What have you been up to?
I'm doing good. I was telling my son today, one of the benefits of like working out really early is like you're so tired you don't really even remember doing it. That's kind of how these double dippers are starting to feel. Like, wait a minute, was that today or was that yesterday? Was it Saturday? I don't know. There's a lot of football, a lot of good football though. I like it. I like being here for these.
Yeah, I wish we had better football to talk about as far as what the Broncos put on tape this last week. But, you know, it's still football, and the Broncos are 3-1. And while it wasn't pretty, that's a good Ravens team, and there's a lot more football to improve upon. I mean, I don't want to, say that this Broncos team is going to go on and win the Super Bowl, but, a lot of people, you probably remember 2012, the Broncos went to Baltimore and beat the ever-loving poop out of the Ravens in Baltimore.
Ooh.
The ever-loving poop out of the Ravens in the regular season. The Ravens come to Denver in the playoffs in 2012, and lo and behold, they get hot, and they beat the Denver in the playoffs. They beat the Patriots on the road in the playoffs, and they go all the way and win the Super Bowl. So not saying that's what the Broncos are going to do, but we got a long season to go. This team's going to change a lot, and hopefully they'll grow. But, that seems like a lot of people are pretty down about this team right now. Either way, both quarterback stands are pointing at each other, getting angry. 3-1 team, so I'm not too upset about it. The further we get away from it, the less emotional we have to be. But guys, before we get into this, obviously, this is Building the Broncos. We're going to be here every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, like we were today. You can follow Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BTB Football Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Make sure you also go to huddleuppod.com to get your swag on. I know that my hat and Broncos for Breakfast coffee mug is on the way, and I think Scott has some merch on the way also for that. And as you guys can see, I'm wearing the Building the Broncos hat right now. So make sure you get on the website, support us, and rock the gear because it helps us. That brand awareness is always key. Go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Become a member and join the conversation there. If you're on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share. Our page, that helps us a heck of a lot. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it helps us compete with many other of those fine Broncos contributors out there. That good content, but we like to think we're number one. And also, speaking of number one, go to Scott's page, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. And Scott, do you have anything for us as far as, I know we talked a little bit this morning about it, but the winners last month and what's potentially coming down the track this month and what we're pushing for?
Yeah, last month we did the drawing on Monday, not after the gut reaction. The gut reaction was a gut punch, unfortunately. So they waited until yesterday to do the drawings for the. I'm already getting them confused. It was Justin Simmons, right?
Yes.
Last week it was Patrick Surtain this week. Yeah, the Justin Simmons jersey. Christy won it. Michael Ranquillo won one, and I think there were 5 more different people that were getting some different types of some. This is a conversation that Chad and I have had about what the word for swag actually is, and he thinks it's like swagger. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. But there is a new Stars goal for this month that's going to get a Pat Surtain jersey at 250,000 stars. And because Facebook was having such trouble the past couple of days, we're behind. We're definitely behind. So 2% through the first 4.5 days of the month definitely means we're behind. So I have confidence that this crew can get us back to goal for the month.
Listen up, Broncos country. TickPick should be your first choice to buy football tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. TickPick is the exclusive ticketing partner for the Huddle Up podcast and the Blue Wire Network.
Denver Broncos football is finally back, and there's no need to exhaust yourself searching all over the internet to find Broncos tickets anymore, because TickPick, that's TickPick, is the original no-fee ticket site and the only one you'll ever need as your go-to for all NFL tickets. TickPick got rid of all those awful service fees that the other ticket sites charge, which lets them guarantee the best prices on all of their NFL tickets. Don't believe it? If you can find better prices for the same seats on another ticket site, TickPick will give you 110% of the difference in the purchase price.
That's right, guys. When we were searching for tickets for the MHH meet and greet for week 3 at home, Broncos versus Jets, TickPick had us locked down. So visit tickpick.com/huddle today and use the promo code HUDDLE to save $10 on your first order of Broncos tickets.
Scott, I'll kick it back over to you. I think we got some stars already coming in here. So people heard the answer. Obviously, Facebook and Instagram were having issues. So we're now jumping in, and the stars are coming in. So we got
Gary's coming in, already donated. Coming in, say hello, my favorite guys in all of Broncos country.
Wow.
I think he's talking to you, Chad. Chad's behind. He's listening to me have this debate with him in the background about what swag actually is. Steve's coming with some stars already too. He says, "What's up? Catching you guys twice is unusual for me. Got my breakfast for Broncos mug on the way. Go Bucky." That was a shot earlier that I didn't bring back to your attention, but that one, he sent that one earlier. So we're going to make sure that one gets read. So it must be Wisconsin, Iowa.
Yeah.
Iowa this weekend. That's there's going to be some beer consumed, I would think, in between those two schools.
Iowa's got Penn State this weekend, but Wisconsin will be later on in Camp Randall, so that'll be good. Obviously, Wisconsin's already got 3 L's on the table, but they've played some pretty good teams already too. It's either 2 or 3 L's, 3 L's. But I mean, Notre Dame, Penn State, and who was the other one they lost to? Either way, it'll be a good game later. That might be for the Big Ten West. We also got, speaking of stars, Peter Middleton coming over in Cambodia. He says, "Stars for you guys, Peter. Thank you for joining us in the morning and evening, although it'd be evening and morning for you, but whatever the time it is, it's Broncos time for Peter, and we appreciate you joining us today and always being such a great contributor to the chat, as well as just, in general, being a positive influence in this community."
Yeah, and then on the YouTube, let's not forget about YouTube. Dennis coming in. So I know this is a Broncos podcast, but I have to say, how about them Hawks? I don't think you're going to get too many complaints from at least one of the hosts talking about the Hawks. I'm actually going to give the NBA a try for the first time in a decade and a half. Good young team with the Atlanta Hawks. I haven't watched the NBA more than a game or two in 15 years. And I grew up diehard NBA. I don't know anything from the last 15 years. We can talk 80s and 90s NBA all you want to, but I don't know much of anything except that all anybody ever talks about is who's the greatest this or who's the greatest that. And so it's like I couldn't even tell you who wins the games. Does it? Yeah. That doesn't even seem to matter anymore.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm not sure a Bucks fan. I do know that one because that's pretty special. Milwaukee Bucks pulling that off. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Also, Jay Kozad's in the house. Good to see you, Jay. Ashton's in the house. Nick and Scott are the actual truth. I don't know about the actual truth, but we do what we can to disseminate what we're seeing. Obviously, Ernie Mays is in the house too. Good afternoon to you, Ernie. It's great to see you. Gustavo's in the house. Avery Williamson to the practice squad. Let's jump on this here real quick because we have the Williamson news that just came down the wire. I think it was Ryan O'Callahan that was it was. I'm not sure who broke it first. I think Albright confirmed it, but we obviously Broncos signed Avery Williamson and Josh Malone. I didn't see Josh Malone, wide receiver from Tennessee, a very high recruit, to the practice squad. Josh Malone's a big body, kind of like an ex receiver as well, but another guy
been around a while, hasn't he?
He has been around a while. Didn't have good quarterback there, and the Broncos also released cornerback Ferris and Kreider to make room. So it's the kind of that back end of the roster practice squad stuff where you're going to see guys shuffling in and out. Maybe somebody catches on. But we just brought in Kreider and now he's gone. So we'll see. But Williamson.
This one feels a little different than just the back end of the practice squad for me, though. This guy's 100 tackles a year machine. Mm-hmm. Avery Williamson. He's had 100 tackles 5 of the last 6 years, including last year across 2 teams with the Jets and the Steelers. Had 111s, almost 60 with each. 120 tackles the year before. He was actually out 19, so that might be part of it. So 120 tackles in 2018, 92 in 17, 104 in 16. So I always look to see when these guys are getting signed and they're veterans, what did they do in the previous year? And he was still a 111 tackle guy last year. You know, you should have over 100 tackles, but that means you've got a guy that was starting last year. So that's some good quality depth, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him on the active roster before too long. Once they, kick the tires a little bit more and make sure that he's still healthy. But I doubt they would have signed him if he didn't pass his medicals. So get a better idea of where he fits in, but it wouldn't totally surprise me to see him on the active roster.
Nah, me neither. Avery Williamson, solid player, University of Kentucky linebacker there. Had some good years there playing for the Wildcats and for the Jets for a while as well. Liked him a good bit coming out in the draft. I think that this Williamson signing, he's probably not going to overtake Justin Strnad or Alexander Johnson, but that Micah Kaiser spot where he's the back end, that next guy up, God willing, there's not another injury. This is a Micah Kaiser, Avery Williamson, I think, battle here for that next linebacker on the field. And I think this also speaks to Baron Browning not being exactly where they want him to be, whether that be physically because he had injuries all throughout camp, or mentally, again, because of the injuries all throughout camp and kind of learning the off-ball position as well as the edge. But it's a good spot. Hopefully this will also bring some special teams to them as well, because those pack-end linebackers have to play special teams. And also the linebacker the Broncos traded for, whose name is escaping me right now, from the 49ers, is another special teams guy that got dinged up here recently. So Broncos got some injuries. Obviously, everybody knows that. But the Williamson signing, he does have a bit more prestige and profile than your typical practice squad signing.
That's a veteran signing it's definitely a depth and not a development signing. He's been in the league for several years already. Maybe we have to use him, maybe we don't. That's kind of the thought of. But again, you've got a good, solid pro to plug in, and not oh my God, we got to do something with this rookie. Where you're scared to death to throw him in there. He can go in there and get a job done. Yep,
absolutely. DBA's in the house. What's up, guys? Missed you all this morning. We missed you too, DBA.
Missed you too.
We'll see you Thursday. Travis Tarbox, also a Hawkeye supporter in here. Evening, fellas. I was at the game on Sunday. Seemed like they just quit on the game. I think the Broncos got a little bit shell-shocked in this game. I think that they maybe a little bit of PTSD as well. The Broncos offense went into a shell after that. They were not moving the ball very well, especially after that Alberto Cuebanam drop. That would have been maybe tide changing. I mean, you talk about a completely different game if you're up 7-0 on the first drive, potentially. So it's unfortunate. It also seemed like from even Pat Shurmur down to the offensive guys around him, the air was taken out of the stadium a little bit when it was found out that Teddy Bridgewater did have the concussion and Drew Lock was coming in. Now, is that about Drew? Is that about Teddy? Those guys probably wouldn't tell you unless it was an off-the-record conversation, or if it's even conscious versus subconscious. But it did seem like they were a little bit deflated in this game and brought back down to reality from that 3-0 start. But it's just one game. This is some adversity. Every team's going to have adversity this year. There's only one remaining undefeated team, the Arizona Cardinals. And guess what? I would put good money on they're not going to finish the year undefeated. So it's what do you do now?
Whoa, there's your headline.
What's
there's your headline. Nick says Cardinals won't go undefeated.
Except the St. Louis Cardinals in the playoffs. But other than that,
they might. Jesus.
They're hot, but they got the Dodgers. So
wouldn't mind seeing the Yankees get bounced tonight, though. I'll tell you that much.
That would be great. You know what's great? Also bouncing in here, Naj coming in, the $20 over on YouTube, $19.99 to be exact. Naj, thank you so much. I love that orange. It really pops. Hey, bros, so tired of Fangio comfortably calling out players for poor play, yet being so disinterested in offense and special teams. He never holds the offensive coordinator or special teams coach accountable for poor game planning. It's like he's not a true head coach. I will say that it's pretty hard for me to get too on him about this, because if I was the coach or the owner or general manager or whatever, I wouldn't want Vic Fangio going to the press conference and just blasting these guys. It's stuff that needs to be happening in the meeting rooms. Otherwise, I personally, if somebody did that to me, they were just going out and airing their dirty laundry. I would have issue with that.
And Nick, in that case, then it's the first part of the statement that bothers you. You don't want him comfortably calling out players necessarily either. It's okay, say, hey, He probably thinks he should have had that ball. He probably thinks he can do better. He knows that. We know that. And he's going to do better. That's okay. But, being a grouchy old man, if you're successful, then you're Bill Belichick. The press will call you colorful. They'll call you interesting, and they'll, old school, and use all kinds of nice things. But he's coming off as insecure and petty right now, and that's not a good look.
I think he's coming out deflective as well. This was a bad game plan. It didn't work out. The offensive line was getting absolutely obliterated, and they went away from the run game when that was working. And obviously the communication against the blitzes was not working. And there's a lot of coaching issues. Also, I mean, there was just simple execution issues as well. But I prefer it. It's like, not to go back to college football, but like Scott Frost for the Nebraska Cornhuskers drives me absolutely insane because he's always pointing the fingers at his other coaches, at his players, et cetera, et cetera. You're the head coach, buddy. The buck stops here. Put it on you. That's your job. Whatever the players have going on there, no, you are the wall. You should be, it's even more so for college coaches, but you are the wall there. You need to be the one that's taking the brunt of that. And he just hasn't done that.
At least be honest about it, like Steve Spurrier was. That's okay, Nick. It's not your fault. I just didn't coach you well enough.
Yeah.
It's not your fault that you let that guy get behind you. I didn't do a good enough job coaching you up.
Yep.
Thanks, coach. I feel much better now.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I had a boss that was the absolute epitome of the compliment insult. Nick, you are way too smart a guy to do something this stupid. Hey, wait.
Nah, that's
yes. There's ways to handle that for sure. And again, the part of Naj's comment there is, I'm tired of him calling these guys out. Take care of your own house right now, and own it. You're the head coach. It's all your fault, all of it. Even the personnel decisions that you might not even have any say in. Those are still your fault. So just own it.
And I think another good point here is that you can be a brilliant football mind, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a great head coach. Like Vic Fangio, no doubt about it, one of the better defensive coordinators in the game. I know some people get their, rears chafed about him not blitzing as much as they'd like, but his defense, we know the scheme works in the NFL. A lot of teams are trying to replicate it right now. Maybe being a head coach and managing all those personalities and being that kind of guy is a bit more than he can chew. I mean, that's true. Some guys are just better off as the schemers, the coordinators, versus like John Harbaugh, for example, or Mike Tomlin, two coaches we've seen back-to-back weeks here who are phenomenal head coaches, who are not just the schemers, but they're the motivators as well. Mm-hmm. They are the personality managers as well. They do well with the press. It's everything. And that's not just Vic Fangio. You see it with Urban Meyer too, right? College to NFL, totally different. So
we've had this discussion before about the different skill sets it takes, and I usually pour it into the coach, and it seems like this has almost gone away. This was a big thing in the 80s and 90s when the coaches like to think of themselves as general managers too, and they would try and entice players. Franchise would try and entice guys, and you saw it in Denver as good of an example as anybody. I thought Dan Reeves was a fantastic head coach, but he didn't just want to be a head coach. He wanted to be the coach and general manager. And he got run out of he got run out of Denver because of that. He got run out of New York because of that. And he got run out of Atlanta because of that. When he had success, short-term success as a coach in all those places, but he's a horrible general manager. And you need some separation in that. I don't want the same guy that's asking you to put your, you need to go out there and put your life on the line basically for me in this play, to be the same one that's negotiating a contract with me. That needs to be, that's separate. The personalities and the relationships you build are very much biased how you can deal with the people and the players that you're evaluating, drafting, cutting, and signing. So it's the same way with being the overall general manager, wrong term, not the general manager, but being a manager as opposed to being a coach. X's and O's are very different than people skills. Mm-hmm. And it's the X's and O's guys are up in the booth with a headset on. They're not even talking to people. I mean, they're not even talking to players. They're scheming. It's completely different skill sets.
Yep, I totally agree with you. And the best ones are good at both. But maybe and this is one of the first times I've ever truly been super skeptical of Fangio. I mean, the whole Ravens thing, like if you don't like it, stop them. I get it that it's upsetting that they did that, but like you're getting your butt whipped in this game. It totally feels like a deflection for me. So we'll see. We got Cortland Harrison coming in with a $2, probably a super sticker there over on YouTube. Thank you very much for that, Cortland. We appreciate you. Also want to give a shout out to Peter Middleton, 500 stars so far. Gary Leeds Palmer, 200. Steve Lazuski, 200. Michael Ronquillo, 150. Lawrence Rivera 150, and Claude Riley also coming in. So thank you guys so much.
This was Lawrence's comment with the Stars too. So Big Ben is old and doesn't got the arm strength he used to.
Sorry.
And I can still read it even if it's not on the screen because I've got it. Doesn't have it used to. Go after him early and keep doing what we do on the defense for the run. No, he doesn't have the arm strength that he used to. He was never mobile. He was just kind of an oak tree back there where guys would hang off of him and he was strong enough to still throw the ball downfield. But we've talked about this with Teddy and arm strength. The touchdown pass that he threw in the beginning of the Green Bay Packers game, it was still 45 yards in the air. He stepped up and threw the ball 45 yards. So you can't simply just crowd the box. I've said it before that any quarterback in the NFL can throw the ball 45 or 50 yards downfield to get behind a safety on a play action or a fly route for a speedy receiver. That arm strength isn't necessarily always about the deep ball. It's about fitting into tight windows. It's about those crossing patterns where you're throwing it into a tight window, into a lot of traffic. And that's where he is struggling anymore. Watching the difference between him and Aaron Rodgers in that Green Bay game, Aaron Rodgers is just freaky. I mean, the stuff that he can do with that right arm of his is just unbelievable. You can, there's a very colorful Twitter personality that doesn't really like Tom Brady and pumps up Aaron Rodgers all the time. And I will flat out say Aaron Rodgers is a better passer. He's a better passer than Tom Brady. That's not necessarily makes him a better quarterback. There's different things. But as far as arm talent goes, it doesn't get much better than Aaron Rodgers in the history of this game.
Yeah, he's one of the most physically gifted arm talent quarterbacks we've ever seen. And maybe he's a future Denver Bronco. We'll see. But thank you very much for the comment, Lawrence. We appreciate you. I want to get to this one here real quick because I think it leads very well into our conversation that we wanted to get to here today. DeAndre Witherspoon coming in. What are your guys' expectations on the Steelers game and any updates on Teddy? And the play calling has to be a lot better and coaching has to be better also. I mean, everybody across the board besides maybe Caden Stearns, Javonte Williams, and Melvin Gordon, hold on to that L. You earned it. This was a bad game. You came out, you got outclassed, outperformed, outcoached, whatever you want to say. It's going to happen sometimes. That doesn't define your season. If you let that define your season, that probably speaks about your toughness as a team. So hopefully it's not a big issue. And leading into that as well, talking about the Steelers game coming out, we got Paris saying Locke looked good. I like Locke better. And then DBA agreeing with him saying, agreed, Paris, I hope Drew starts. There is a reality out there where Locke will be the starting quarterback in this game. It sounds like Teddy, he suffered a mild concussion and he was, joking around on the field after the game and feeling pretty good. So there is a possibility that Teddy will be starting in this game. But we probably won't know until we get closer to kickoff. Might not know until Thursday. Might not know until Friday. And even then, they might keep it somewhat close to the vest as well as a advantage for the scheming. But we'll see. Any thoughts about this game and thoughts on Drew Lock being better than Teddy was in this last game, according to your eyes?
I don't think that either one of them were necessarily any better than the other. What I liked was I thought the running game was going really well, which what we've seen is sticking with the running game and to your phrase, being stubborn with the running game sets up things later on. And for me, this felt like a flip of the script where it seemed like, hey, the game's close, but the Ravens keep controlling the ball and keep adding points. This game is just slowly but surely getting out of reach. And, there's something I'm going to pay attention to. I mentioned this to you before we went on, and I started noticing it with Drew Lock. Do they not use cadences anymore anywhere? Because Drew Lock went on one. His snap count was on one every single snap, every single one. There was no getting the pass rush and trying to disrupt their timing. So I went back and watched Teddy. Every single one, every single snap was on one. It was either hut or set hut or down set hut, but it was on one every time. So I went and plugged in the Falcons game. I was like, now this is going to bother me. Now it's like that itch in the back of your mind that I can't scratch. I'm like, all right, is anybody else going on two anymore? So that's something I kind of want to keep an eye on. And maybe that's just me and old school and remembering Peyton Manning getting, 5 offsides penalties and free plays every game by changing up his cadence. But I'd like to see Drew Lock change up his cadence a little bit. I think it would help him out some.
Yeah,
if he's the guy. I mean, if he's the guy out there.
Do you have, so Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, obviously, unfortunately, we have to go back down this rabbit hole a little bit with the Teddy Bridgewater concussion.
I told you we would.
Yeah, it was eventual.
This thing's never going to be over. The quarterback competition, the minute either one of these guys struggles, no matter who wins it, we're going to be talking about it again right away, and that's okay. They're pretty even. That's a pretty good situation to be in.
And we got Cortland coming in with another super. Thank you so much, Cortland. $2 saying Lock can win games with good pass protection. That's a big caveat, considering the Broncos are starting potentially 2 young offensive linemen again on the guard spots. It does sound like Dalton Reisner is trending towards playing this week with Glasgow still being out another week, but we'll see when we get there. Pro Football Focus grades, not the end-all be-all, but Netane Moody with a 3 pass blocking grade out of 100 is very concerning. I'll have to go back and watch the All-22 to speak on that, but that's as bad of a single grade I've ever seen for an offensive lineman in pass protection. So not good, but Locke can win with good pass protection. Even if the Broncos offensive line was at full strength this week, I don't know if you're going to get good pass protection versus the Steelers team. The Steelers offensive line is probably one of the worst in football. Big Ben's arm is falling off. But the Steelers, they can do one thing and do one thing pretty darn well. That's get after the quarterback. Melvin Ingram has been a revelation for them this year. Hayward is a phenomenal interior defensive lineman. Javon Hargrave. Oh, excuse me, not Hargrave. Their other defensive tackle. Name's escaping me. And obviously, TJ Watt.
I was fairly impressed with Chris Wormley, and he hasn't done much. And, just watch. I like the way he disengaged with guys and was using his hands. Watching him, Cameron Hayward is he's been a good player for a long time. He's from right around this neck of the woods. I think they moved here when his dad Ironhead played for the Falcons. I think they moved down here and stayed. So Cameron stayed down here and then went up north to play his college ball. But he's been a good player for a long time in this league.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. And TJ Watt is right up there as one of the best pass rushers in football right now. So either way, it's going to be an issue. And I do want the Broncos to be, once again, stubborn with the run. They got away from it this week. If you pressed Shermer on this right now, I think he would say that, yeah, looking back at it, I just was calling it based on game flow, blah, blah, blah. But seeing what I see now, should have gone with the run more. And that's even further emphasized, not just protect the quarterback, help your gosh darn offensive line out. You're ever going against the blitz-happy, exotic blitz scheme of the Ravens. Same with the Steelers coming up this week. That's a lot for communication and cohesion for that offensive line when they're 2 new starters. Especially
with 2 new starters. And not just new starters as in new to the team, but basically new to the NFL as starters. And we know when you think of Muti, what are the superlatives you use to describe him? Strength is usually the first one. Strength, run game. Okay, that makes sense. Miners coming from Wisconsin, UW Whitewater. Fix that one. That was from the other night. Calling it Wisconsin Whitewater is a lot like calling UCF Central Florida. They don't like that. That's a location, not a school. So UW Whitewater, and Miners is a people mover. What have I said about him since the first second I saw him in January at the Senior Bowl? This guy will move the person in front of you. And how many times did you really run the ball? I think it was the first play of the second half. And then I remember a 3rd and 3 when you were down 16 points with 3 minutes to go to try and pick up a quick first down. And there might have been 1 more or 2 more in between there, but you didn't run the ball at all. And you weren't out of this game until the very last few minutes of the fourth quarter. There was a lot that was disappointing in that game against the Ravens for sure.
Yeah, and I think the Broncos, if they matched up against the Ravens again, it's going to be a different game plan. I think it would be closer. This is one where it just kind of got away from you, and your quarterback was playing poorly, your offensive line was playing poorly, and you started to get in your head. So hopefully this team can show that they have better leadership than they have in years past, and they can move forward against another good team because, we said the season started with last week's game. Now you're 0-1, but you luckily did have that 3-game head start with those other teams. So season's far from lost. But that should be a wake-up call, okay, well, we were feeling pretty good at 3-0, but this is real. And if we lose this game against the Steelers, we're suddenly looking at 3-2 with a chance to go to 500 playing the also equally dangerous Raiders. So pretty tough. We got Semisi Moody coming in here saying love and support.
Coming in, we're making up on some lost ground is what Semisi Moody has done. With I mentioned at the top of the show, we were only 2% towards Stars goal. That's a big bump. That's putting a little gas on the fire to get it going. So we certainly appreciate everything that you've done for us. I think you had the second most in the hat yesterday for the drawing, and this will vault you back up to the top. Appreciate your support and love having you on here. Thank you so much for the support and generosity.
Yeah, and with Reisner being back, I would expect Reisner is supposedly back. I would expect Moody to start again this week at the right guard position for Glasgow. We'll see if that helped with the game plan. Obviously changes, but I want the Broncos again. Just run the football more. I know it's a passing league, but that's not your identity right now. And if you can win the game via the ground with good defense, there's multiple ways to win football games. That's fine. Go ahead and do that, especially if you're playing to the strength of your offensive line and protecting your quarterback. Go ahead.
But just go. I kind of danced around your question. I'm still tap dancing around. This is such a volatile subject. I would prefer to see Teddy Bridgewater into Drew Lock based on the balance of what I've seen so far. I think the team plays better with Teddy at the helm. I want 100% Teddy. I don't want a 90% Teddy. I want 100% Teddy, especially when we're dealing with head injuries. Yeah. Can this team beat Pittsburgh with Drew Lock? Yeah, absolutely. Because the other part of I said, let's make sure I hedge this, 100%, was I'm not going to cast any type of judgment on Drew Lock based on coming in midway through a game at halftime, behind, all those type of things. I want to see him manage a game from beginning to end before we start saying yes or no. And maybe we might not even be able to say that still. There's still going to be a lot of maybes in here because there's not going to be enough separation between these two over the course of the year for the people who want Drew Lock to say, I don't want Drew Lock anymore, and vice versa.
Yeah, no, we'll hopefully get it here. We do have I don't have the ability to pull it up, but a super sticker here from Woodwork by Ben Norris. Maybe somebody else can pull it up. I don't know what Chad's up to right now, but we'll see about that one. But thank you very much for your support, Woodwork by Ben Norris. Shout out to you for the $5 super. That means a lot to us, and we appreciate that. I want to get to this comment here from Tim Hoffman.
It's a hyped hippo. That's what I can tell.
All right.
Let me see. You know what I can do is I can share my screen. Share my screen over here. Show the hyped hippo.
Boom, there it is. All right, hyped hippo. Let's get it. That's for the Broncos being 4-1 after this week, and also the Broncos being 3-1 and very much on the path towards the playoffs. So a lot of season to go. Just one game. I don't think people need to bury this team yet. I think everybody's just so scared to fall in love with this team, and we haven't had a good Broncos team for a while. This is a good Broncos team. They should be contending for the playoffs. They're not great. They're not a Super Bowl contender. Anybody who thought that after the 3-0, I guess good for you, but reality comes quick when that happens. But it's a good team, and the season's far from over. I want to get to this comment here from Tim Hoffman over on Facebook. Thanks for joining us today, Tim. When is the franchise going to learn we need to invest in our offensive line? Even when Manning was getting pounded and thrown to the ground, the Broncos weren't really invested in the offensive line. And there is such a point of diminishing return on the offensive line where you've invested too much. And at some point it comes down to nailing the right evaluation, the player doing the right work. Sorry, dog turned around the kennel. And the coaches getting those guys in the right spot. But you have first round pick getting $17 million a year, Garrett Bowles at left tackle. Okay, that's a big investment. Pick 41 overall, left guard, Dalton Reisner. That's a big investment. 77 overall, second year player, Lloyd Cushenberry. Another solid investment. I think your highest paid offensive player on the side of the ball, Graham Glasgow. That's a high investment. He's one of the highest paid guards in football. You did have the right guard or right tackle very highly invested in too before the whole Juwan James got injured again. So it's not like this team hasn't invested in the offensive line. It just doesn't always work out. But I don't think they completely ignore it. And if you're using first round picks on the offensive line every single year to get it right, that means you're neglecting the offensive weapons. You're neglecting the pass rushers, the cornerbacks, et cetera, et cetera. So I do want to push back a little bit that they haven't invested in it. Biggest issue right now is, I guess, right, honestly, compared to what you were post-draft, you've lost 3 starters so far with Reisner, James, and Glasgow. You'll get some of those guys back, but no team has the depth to survive losing 3 starters unless you have a special quarterback.
Yeah, I think the question that becomes from Tim and the rest of the Broncos fans is even if those guys are still there, how much better is this line? So when you start asking about investment, I actually start thinking the investment is there. Let's talk about the identification and the development. So the scouting and development of these guys, because the investment has been there, but are you getting a good return on it? Are you getting value for your draft picks where you are taking them? If not, why not? Nobody's going to be 100% for sure. But, as fans, what we ask is that you are investing in the right areas. And the investment has been there. To Nick's point, just listening to him to say all those things, Talk about the free agent contract at right tackle, the big money at left tackle, and that was a high pick. The interior line, you're usually looking at third, fourth, and fifth round picks, and those guys develop. That's pretty normal. And then you pay them as they, almost like a walk-on kicker. We're gonna have 5 kickers walk on, and once you kick for a year, then we're gonna give you a scholarship, but not before. So, my question then becomes: is the scouting and development of these guys? Why are they falling behind? Why are they falling behind? Were they not good enough to begin with, or are we not doing a good enough job of developing them?
I think that's a multifaceted question with different answers as well. The big thing, I think Reisner's playing in the wrong scheme that would benefit his skill set the best. He's a solid pass protector, but he is far better in an outside zone scheme. When you're asking him to duo block or anything power oriented, that's just not his strength. He's better moving laterally and climbing to the second level in the run game. Cushenberry's been a struggle there, and then Glasgow, he's solid when he's healthy. It's just he hasn't injured at the end of last year, injured this season, multiple things going on. So I think it's much more just the offensive line and the bad luck of injuries. And then Massey as well. I mean, you weren't expecting Massey to play. You had a big investment in Juwan James. So it sucks. Unless you had a Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers type of quarterback, you're probably still going to have issues there.
Yeah, you're not getting a contract that Graham Glasgow got without having success. Mm-hmm. So, he didn't all of a sudden become a bad guard. You don't typically pay those guys on the interior line that type of money unless you were pretty good.
Yeah. Yep. And we got Gustavo with some information here saying Jason Smith was just released, and it's too bad for Jason Smith, a good player at Notre Dame, had that terrible knee injury against Ohio State.
I'm going with Michael's version of this one because I put that up there for you because I wasn't sure who Jason Smith was.
It's Jalen. Yeah,
but I do know who that is.
Yep. Jalen Smith. The answer to everybody's question is the same as it was for Jamie Collins. The answer is no. Guys are cooked, and you have a short shelf life, and Jalen Smith looks slow and old. And I want neither of those things on this defense. Slow and old, get out of here. So sorry about that, but no thanks on Jalen Smith. He's more of a name than a difference maker at this point.
And Gustavo, certainly appreciate you coming in and hitting the super and keeping us informed while we are in here with y'all. It's tough for me to dual screen. I look over here, but I'm checking on in here and not necessarily surfing. Hey, what's going on every 2 seconds? And Michael coming in saying that Nick and Scott are the Bash brothers on Broncos for breakfast and building the Broncos. Go Broncos. We're kind of reinventing the Bash brothers on my son's baseball team. He's got somebody he's played with for 3 or 4 years, and between the two of them, they're pretty strong. And we've given them a little education on the late 80s Oakland A's.
Good times.
They're having some fun with that.
Yeah, I grew up adoring Mark McGwire. Mark McGwire and John Elway, man. Those are my dudes. But Chase Wellner coming in with a $5 super over on YouTube says, did you guys see Javonte Williams is second in broken tackles behind Nick Chubb?
That was just one run, wasn't it?
A lot of it, man. What a run.
I'm surprised Taysom Hill isn't in there. Jesus.
Yeah.
Watching highlights with my son, I was like, that is a grown man run right there. And then I saw the Javonte Williams run later. I was like, oh my God. You're not supposed to be able to do that in the NFL.
Pretty insane. Also, I want to say that I'm very much I'm a statistical guy, and while Nick Chubb is leading Javonte Williams in broken tackles, Javonte Williams has done it like on half the carries. Mm-hmm. So while Nick Chubb has broken more, Javonte Williams, broken tackle per carry is through the roof, insane. So it's a tough situation for the Broncos. We have too many good backs because Melvin Gordon's playing great football too. So just lean into those guys. I really don't understand what Pat Shurmur did in the second half, especially because it's so obvious that Pat Shurmur has zero trust in Drew Lock. I mean, you saw, I think Drew Lock took a sack with the first play he was in there, and Shurmur's just looks like dejected, like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. So if you don't trust him, try to do by dropping him back and pass on every play. You're like, I'm going to prove a point. It's strange.
Yeah,
it really is. It's strange. It's like, oh, we know we can't run. We can't win. It's almost like they flipped the script on them, honestly. Like, you don't think that he was a good enough passer, or ball control, so you're going to pass him every play? Run him with the Teddy Bridgewater playbook. Let him play underneath. Run the ball. Run play action. Do all those things to protect a quarterback. Instead, you drop him back in a 5-step shotgun every time and throw the ball the whole time. How could that go wrong?
Yeah.
It was the whole thing. I understand why Broncos country was a little disappointed and a little frustrated and a little peeved, especially if you've had to watch this before. Especially if there's a pattern here. Tim came in, showing up big too. Nice job on the stars coming in. And if you have anything that you want us to hit, let us know. Hit us up in the comments. You've earned another shout out for sure. Appreciate you.
Yeah. We appreciate you, Tim. Thank you very much. Also got the thumbs up with the 100 on there. Maybe as a response to Mark saying, good is it having a guard who plays half a game and then is out another game or two with heart issues? IDK, if that can be called an investment. I mean, you paid him. It's an investment. Doesn't mean it was a good investment. You don't really find that out until after the fact, right? Like you're putting money in Dogecoin or whatever the heck the kids are doing these days, and find out later it plummets. It's like, oh, that was a bad investment. It's still an investment.
You cannot question that they are willing to allocate the resources towards that position. They just didn't do it very well. Again, it's an investment. It's just it was a bad one, or it's not going very well. But if you're saying I've got, and that was the original question, when are we going to invest in the offensive line? Well, you got draft picks and money. What else are you going to do? That's your capital. That's all you can do to invest in the offensive line. There has been investment. It just hasn't been very good. So again, scouting and development, because resources isn't the problem.
Yep. No, you're absolutely correct. And we got Steve coming in here, I believe with stars here. So thank you very much, Steve. That might even be double dipping here. I thought Munchak was supposed to be an offensive line god. What do you think the overall problem is? The players should be good, but aren't performing. Obviously, and we've also got massive stars from Mama Moody coming in there. My God. That's incredible to see. That's so thank you so much for that. Tim Hoffman also coming in, Peter Middleton, and Steve. We got this question right now. Gary Leeds Palmer, Michael Ronquillo, Lawrence Rivers, and Claude Riley. Thank you guys so much for the stars. Yes, Lawrence Rivera. And sorry, it's pretty small on my screen. But thank you so much, guys.
My head goes from side to side because I've got like 40 inches of screens up here. So at least, so that's why I'm not just glancing around. My whole side, if I get one over here, I'll have 180 degrees of screens here.
Oh, that's the best for watching football games, especially college when you have like 10 games going at once. Good times. But Steve, Munchak was supposed to be an offensive line god. What's the problem? I think the problem is last year, I would say the problem was probably a combination of youth on the offensive line, as well as a quarterback who is not helping the offensive line out very much. They have the off quarterback play and offensive line play go hand in hand. I think this year the issue has been injuries galore going on right now. Garrett Bowles' regression. We have not talked much about that. He was terrible in this Ravens game. I think he's given up 4 sacks this year already, which is in 4 games. What the heck's going on, Bowles? He tell you that he's been playing bad too. And just the injuries on the interior, but it's an issue. You do wonder though, if this offensive line would be performing even worse if they didn't have Mike Munchak, because Mike Munchak does have a good track record. So I have a hard time saying he is the problem, but you'd hope that you'd have better offensive line play considering Munchak's prestige.
And Lauren's coming back in with a star saying, I wish we would have kept Lindsey and Williams. Lindsey was Broncos fire last year, or it would have been. So let's see. Would you trade Melvin Gordon for Phillip Lindsay straight up? Who's the better back right now?
Melvin Gordon's the better back, especially in this scheme. With how much isolation kind of plays you have going on there, especially with how much the running back is responsible for picking up pass rushers. We saw it with Phillip Lindsay, bless his heart. He's got a heart of a lion, but he's small and gets overrun when he's back there. And you don't have that issue with Melvin Gordon. So Melvin Gordon's also the better receiving back. He's the better goal line back. He's a better player. And we saw Phillip Lindsay was on the open market this year, right? Like the Broncos let him go. There were not teams breaking down the door to sign Phillip Lindsay. He's a fine back for sure, but Melvin Gordon's much more valuable.
Well, and Seth comes in too with a $5 super. What do you think the play calling will be on Sunday?
Hopefully better. I don't know.
What would you define as better?
I want to see. I think they're having real issues personnel-wise with this team right now, is because all of your weapons now are much more of the slow, long play developing receivers. Because like Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, right? they're not the guys who are downfield in an instant. They're more like down the field. You need a little bit of time for them to get up that head of steam and get downfield. Same with Noah Fant. You don't have those guys who can win in isolation, boom, quickly. KJ Hamler from the slot, getting open quick. Jerry Jeudy, anywhere, honestly, getting open quick. And then you compound that with an offensive line that was struggling to hold up. It goes downhill quickly in that regard. So I'm hoping that this Broncos team will, again, just be stubborn with the run game, run it efficiently, and hopefully whoever the quarterback is better than what we saw from the quarterbacks this last week, because both quarterbacks had bad ball placement, not good decisions, just not very good.
Well, in the case of the big guys out wide, like you're speaking of, the way you want to try and use them if you don't have a ton of time is a quick slant or something along those lines where they can catch a ball, drag a smaller corner 5 or 6 yards. It's almost an extension of the running game. Or if you see them singled out up there, then you can take a 3-step drop and throw it high, loft it up and let them run under it, let them go up there and fight. And then you can get 25, 30-yard chunk plays. And where you get the time to get downfield is on the ball. The ball has a hang time. You're not in a 7-step drop and then trying to fire a laser in there because you don't have time to get a 7-step drop. But you can put one up in the air and let it hang up there and let them go under it. But you have to have the right type of defense. You do that against a cover 2, and you're throwing into double coverage. So again, running the ball helps isolate those receivers out wide. And so again, getting away from the run in the second half didn't make a ton of sense. And there was a comment here, US Dave, appreciate you being in here. And as always, it says, if it's true, don't make him play a Teddy offense. I disagree to a certain extent. I want to see the Teddy offense is get the ball out quickly, stick to the running game, and take advantage of play action. I'd love to see Drew Lock doing that. What I don't want to see Drew Lock doing is dropping back in a 4-wide shotgun run and shoot offense. That's what I don't want to see again. That's not working. The running game and play action seems to be working. Let's give that a shot with Drew Lock. I want to see him try. I want to see him in that offense. Yeah,
and the thing for me with the Steelers game, I have zero respect for, Roethlisberger, but that goes beyond football. But his arm right now, don't respect that. Don't respect their offensive line either. So the way I look at this game is your quarterback probably is not going to win you this game, but your quarterback certainly can lose you this game because the Steelers have a great defense, and your defense should do enough to hold the Steelers defense at bay. So as long as the quarterback is out there, it's not to the same extent as the Jets or the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I would say pretty similar to the Giants in terms of game planning. Your quarterback cannot lose you the game. I'm not asking him to go win there, but if he loses you the game, that's on him and that's on the coaching staff. You just need to take the ball almost out of his hands to a certain extent, either Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock, and put it on the weapons around them and just executing the layups. This is a boring team in that regard for this game plan. At least it would be for me. But I'm looking to, draw walks, work the pitch count, get on base, maybe hit a couple opposite fielders, and get guys on base. Just keep moving it. We don't have to be swinging for the fences on every one.
There's not a whole lot boring to me about watching big guys running over smaller guys. So I like the running game. I like the tight ends. I like big wide receivers. You got all of them. Let's put them to some good use. And Chase Welder comes in with a $2 super and says, are you encouraged by Quinn Miners long term?
Yes, I am. And the way Miners is playing right now, I think not for this year, but I think Reisner should be on notice for next year, or maybe even Cushenberry, because Miners obviously has some center hopes for his future. And also Glasgow's contract as well, because you can save a lot of money moving on from Graham Glasgow. So I think Miners, we always thought he was a year away, and we didn't want to see him unless injuries happen this year, and here we are. But I think he actually looked pretty competent out there. He doesn't have arm length issues, which sometimes you see there on the interior. And while the game is, tough for him at this point, going whitewater to the NFL, he definitely looks competent. So I'm really excited to see what Miners looks 2022 and beyond.
Well, and it'll be fun because the minute the season's over, he's not preparing for the Senior Bowl. He's not preparing for the NFL Combine. He's not preparing for the draft, all of those things. He's preparing to be a Denver Bronco and to play the way they want him to play. And you can tell him, February 1st, Quinn, we want you to be the starting center, or we want you to push for center. And he spends the next 5 months doing nothing but working out and practicing the center snap exchanges and calling his buddies over, doing all those things. where he now knows what's going to be expected of him instead of just spending January, February, and March trying to get his shuttle time faster, or something like that, trying to prepare for a combine. He's preparing to be a better football player. And I'm extremely encouraged with what I've seen. The struggles are kind of what we were expecting where they are. And the positives are what we were expecting what they are. The scouting report on him, I think that I had coming out of the Senior Bowl has been pretty good. And it's biased because it's me grading myself on this, but I'm pleased with where he is right now for sure.
I think he's looked better than anybody could have hoped. Honestly, I mean, going from Whitewater to the NFL, there could have been, we're playing Schlottman right now because he has game experience. The fact that he's already overtaken Schlottman, who was an undrafted free agent, but still, Whitewater to the NFL is a big jump. So that's good. And I think Minor's, he's got natural awareness out there as well. There was a couple like twists and stunts and picking up blitzes that he looked much better than I had dared hoped. So he's still going to have his bumps and bruises this season when we see him, but he's somebody that I feel really good about this offensive line going forward. He's going to be a starter at some point. Where? I'm not sure, but he's going to be starting on this team. We got Lawrence Rivera coming back in here. See, I can see it when it's that big on my screen. I'm saying whatever it takes to keep Teddy healthy. If he has to wait one more week, do it. It's definitely, I'm not a neurologist. I am in the sciences, but I'm not a neurologist, so I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on there with Teddy. But again, from what we've heard, and that's all we can go on, is that it was a minor concussion and that it does seem like he has a very good shot of being cleared by Sunday. And I think even by Friday, and can go through walkthroughs and whatnot and offensive installs. So I'd say it's probably a 50-50 chance right now, but if he doesn't play, I feel still pretty good about Drew Lock and they're giving you a chance to win the game.
And that's the key.
Yep.
That's the key. Do you feel like you can win this game with Drew Lock? Yeah. Okay. Are you sure about Teddy? Yeah. Okay. Then play Teddy. If that's what you want to do, if are you sure about Teddy? No, this isn't a must-win game. The 3-game cushion on a 17-game season ensured that for you. You can, I don't want to say punt on one, but even if we don't play Teddy, we have a pretty good chance of winning this game. All right, well, let's not risk his health on this. And, if a double up on a concussion, then we lose him for the year. Now we don't have any choice and options and depth at the quarterback position that we enjoy right now. So I'm with you on that. Basically, pretty much everything except a championship game. When I'm watching, Madison Bumgarner go out there and, throw and on, he's hurt. I'm like, well, this is the World Series. Yeah, if you got to throw your arm out, throw it out. You got $100 million in the bank and a chance to win the World Series. If you go out with a win here and your career's over, you're like, well, I just won the World Series. I'm okay to go out like that.
Yeah.
Not week 5 of an NFL season that's 17 games. No, we're not making that sacrifice.
Yep, exactly right. And you have a little bit of good fortune in your bank right now, starting off the season 3-1. Obviously, you can get off the rails pretty quickly, but this is not a must-win game. You still have a lot of games left, so I totally agree with your point there. That's a good one. We also have, I had a question here. William coming in here. Good to see you, William, over on YouTube. Said, I think the D will come back big. I just don't know about the offense. And I think this is an important point as well. And I think Von Miller hinted at this in a post-game press conference as well, as like he's excited to play normal offenses again. What the Ravens do to you with pre-snap motion and the looks off the run game with Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson being such a run threat, really limits what you can do with a pass rush, with coverage and whatnot. And the Broncos just did not look comfortable out there in the back end. There was a miscommunications in the back end or blown assignments. And part of that is probably thinking about Lamar, what he's going to do. So like the offense, the pass rush looked terrible in this game. It's not because the Broncos pass rush all of a sudden disappeared. Now, have they been somewhat disappointing this year outside of Von Miller and Draymond Jones? Yes, but I don't think they're a terrible unit. They should be much better this week. And honestly, with how limited Big Ben looks, not the athlete he used to be, limited arm talent too. He can throw it up there, but I might risk it a little bit more to get after him. And the Steelers offensive line, I think this defense is going to look rejuvenated this week. So I'm not too worried about that. I think the further we get from this Ravens game, the more we'll understand just how unique of a bind they put you in from a defensive scheme perspective. Yeah.
And there's no way to prepare for that type of speed at the position from Lamar Jackson until you see it. I felt like we touched on this morning watching that touchdown run from Latavius Murray. Jonathan Cooper didn't necessarily completely crash down on the offensive backfield. He had running back on that run option, that option read. And he kind of mirrored him, but he didn't have the speed to get back out to the edge. And Latavius Murray outran him and Alexander Johnson to the corner and went for a touchdown. Jonathan Cooper will learn from that. Unfortunately, with the type of big play ability that some of these guys have, your learning moments can end up being touchdowns, especially with Lamar Jackson. And you will learn, some of these young guys that the Denver Broncos are going to be counting on are going to learn, by God, I better seal that edge. I better extend that play and turn him back inside and let somebody else look bad if they miss the tackle. Because if he gets outside on me, it's 30 yards. And even then, you still might not be able to do it. The guy's, he's good.
Yep.
He's good. I mean, that's what it boils down to sometimes.
Yeah, and it's just your pass rush has to be so much more disciplined. It's one reason that I really like you said I kind of have a type at edge rusher, I think the other day when you were poking at me. At least I think it was you. I'm saying I kind of the bigger, stronger guys with the length. And it's because they can still, it's the Indiana Jones wall enclosing with their pass rush still. It's not the Von Miller where they're going. Von Miller can still do that from time to time, but really it's the speed around the arc and the bend that where he makes his money. Obviously, it's Von Miller. Nobody does it better than him. But against Lamar Jackson, that kind of neutralizes Vaughn somewhat because you cannot get that much depth.
His ears back and go.
Yeah, exactly. So and Malik Reed, it's the exact same thing. Obviously not the same as Von Miller, but like a more finesse rusher, length around the arc. And when you have Lamar Jackson, you just simply can't. I'm off the screen, but you can't go around that depth. Otherwise, you're leaving those huge spaces. And with Lamar, gone. I mean, he can be gone at that point. So I think the pass rush will look much better this week. I'm still counting down for Bradley Chubb coming back. I know people happy about Malik Reed, undrafted free agent. He's still one of the, unfortunately, last season this was the case too. This season again, he's one of the worst starting edge rushers in football as far as pass rush win rate, snap to snap, to double team rate. So teams don't double him at all. He's one of the least doubled edge rushers in football. He's also one of the lower pass rush win rate guys. So that hurts the rest of the unit. Bradley Chubb's on the other end of the spectrum. So more of a, even if he's not racking up the sacks or whatever, he's having more influence on what the offense is doing out there. So he'll be back at some point too. But I want to get to this one from our pile just because this is building the Broncos after all. And I always am down to talk a little bit of draft. We don't have to get into the specifics here, but we can just talk a little philosophy. If the NFL draft was tomorrow night, what position should we pick first for the most need? This one is I'll give the easy answer first, and then we can kind of dig into it. The first one is quarterback.
I was going to say quarterback. I'm looking at Peter's answer right here saying if we resign Bond, then I'll say right tackle, anything across the offensive line, inside linebacker, and running back. And then I lost there's our pals. What position should we pick first for most need if the draft was tomorrow night? It's first round. So I'm not going interior offensive line in the first round. I'm probably not going running back in the first round. I'm probably not going inside linebacker in the first round. So is there an offensive tackle there? Is there an edge rusher there? Is there an interior defensive lineman there? And is there a quarterback there? It looks to me like you're going to use your quarterback of the future. I don't know. Teddy came out playing so well that in the spring and summer, I said, if Teddy wins this job, you will have a new quarterback in 2023. I'm not ready to change my mind on that one just yet. You can get a guy, you can re-sign Teddy to a 1-year deal, get him a 1-year extension and draft your guy this year, have him play behind Teddy for a year. And then he plays with some experience. Then he's ready to go in 2023. While you still have a window to make a run of the playoffs and it's not a total rebuild. And plus you'd be getting him late enough that he's not eating up a significant amount of cap space, that he's cost controlled for a little while. But my first thought on that, Nick, was the same as yours, was quarterback.
Yeah, I'm a simple man with simple principles. And one of them is if you don't know you have your franchise quarterback, that's the first question. That's the first thing you have to look for. And right now, Drew Lock losing out to Teddy Bridgewater, year three in the NFL, second round pick. Also, the data that we have gathered on so far, there's no way anybody knows that Drew Lock is a franchise quarterback, right? If he was a franchise quarterback, he'd be out there, going up. People would be comparing him to Justin Herbert right now, who's setting the NFL ablaze. That's not the case. So first thing is quarterback. Maybe this is the wrong year to go after a quarterback. I'm not super impressed with the talent. Granted, I know this year's quarterback rookie crop has not looked as good so far, although better this week. So we'll judge them at the end of the season. But first question's quarterback.
You mean they've gotten better after 4 games? That's hard to believe. You're freezing up a little bit. Your audio is going okay, but you are freezing up just a little bit. And it's, of course, always in some of the most, compromising looks and, type of things. That's actually a pretty good one that you froze up on that one. So, wanted to hit, got another stars comment from Travis saying, bumps and bruises. I know it's just 1 game, but if and when Teddy gets hurt and Locke has to play, don't quit. Give him the same response if it was Teddy. It just seems like the team quit. Some of emotions are, you can't help but the way you feel. You just can't. And there was a letdown. There was a disappointment. I couldn't see it. So I'm just going on what you've been told. I watched this one on a condensed version, and it was quick plays. And I couldn't see anything of that. I only saw what happened on the field. So I have to take your word for it. And, I think there's, especially with a head injury, there's some disappointment that Teddy went out. That's only natural. But these guys are professionals, and there's a next man up type of philosophy. And I hope they rally around whoever is the quarterback this week.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Hopefully they do that. Hopefully I'm not too frozen here. But philosophy, back to the draft question here. Edge rusher, offensive tackle, cornerback. Again, you have 2 starters that are going to be free agents next year. And wide receiver may be a dark horse as well. Just given the contracts right now, KJ Hamler's injury, you need 3 good wide receivers, and you might only have 2 next year. So,
and this will probably be the last one for the night as Lawrence comes in and says, last one from him tonight too. I was going to ask, do you think the Broncos find more hidden talents than they actually draft in first rounds? I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think he's asking that the Broncos do better later in the draft than the first round picks they're supposed to hit. So I'd say the Broncos actually do a pretty good job with the later rounds compared to the rest of the NFL. Their free agent signings as of late have been probably below average compared to the rest of the NFL. So I think that's where they're falling behind somewhat. And also some of those midday picks, not as much, but the undrafted late picks have been pretty good as of late. But I'd have to look at the data from across the league to really get an idea.
I think it's a numbers game too. When I was in charge of ranking people, there's like, does it bother you miss or, what, something like this? I'm like, dude, half the first round goes bust, and this is the biggest, most expensive, well-funded league in the world with people that are watching one guy, 30 guys, they go bust. Of course, I don't expect to hit on all of them. So for me, the numbers game is actually, if I give you 1 first-round pick and I get to pick 6 guys in the next 6 rounds, I like my chances that I'm going to find a player that's as good as yours if you give me 5 misses and 1 hit. So a lot of it, I think, is just perception as well. You should be able to get a guy that outperforms later in the draft. It just isn't going to be all of them. You might get one of those guys that ends up playing to the talent of a first-rounder as he develops, and these are human beings. They're not computer programs.
Yep, 100%. Well, speaking of human beings, this human being has to start getting on dinner to fuel himself up. So we're going to get on out of here. Appreciate you guys so much. Hopefully I'm not still freezing up, but we'll get through it. But appreciate everyone for joining us today. This is obviously Building the Broncos every Tuesday night at 6:00 Mountain Time. You guys can follow us.
Do you want to say, I've got my daughter sitting here looking at me right now. She's coming down to say good night. Do you want to say good night to everybody? Because I'm actually on this time. Okay. You want to say goodnight? No. Okay.
I should have brought the dog up. I had a choice to put him in a Broncos scarf today, but he has like a cute plaid one on right now. Also, everybody RIP to Summit. Not RIP, but he's getting his manhood taken away tomorrow. So thoughts and prayers for him getting the snip. But shout out to everybody coming in here. Also, Moody, Hoffman, Rivera, Middleton, Lazuski coming in with the stars. Especially shout out to Moody there with the 10,000 stars. Man, that's that heck of a lot. And I know we have some on the right as well. If we can get to those, if you can scroll over, it looks like we got Andrew Baker, Gary Leeds Palmer, Michael Ronquillo, Travis Weber, and Claude Riley. So thank you guys so much for contributing today. That means a lot to us. Follow Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Kendell and MHH. Also follow us at BTB Football Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Oops, sorry about that. Facebook.com.
No, one more time because I like that comment. It was funny.
Okay, good night to Scott.
Good night to Scott and his family. That's you. She's still standing here waiting to say good night. Wait. There she is.
She is. All right.
I
She needs to come to the green- we need a green screen shirt.
I got her a sweatshirt that matches the sky of Broncos country out there. So say goodnight. Say goodnight and then go back upstairs. Good night.
Good night. And then Chad left as well because we got things to do. Make sure you join us at facebook.com. Oh, Seth coming back in here, $20. Thank you so much, Seth, for coming in under the gun. Love that orange coming in. It's always great to see. Thank you. I think that's your second time today also, so that means a lot to us. Make sure you guys are following us on Facebook, like, subscribe, and share to us on YouTube as well. Make sure you go to Scott's channel, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. And you guys, thank you so much for the conversation today. I know that Broncos country has been in a little bit of despair recently with the quarterback stuff being drugged back up and the Broncos losing to the Ravens. That stuff can make social media, especially when it's like capturing everybody's peak emotion at that exact moment, it can make it pretty tough to get through. But I thought the comment section of the community has been pretty good the last 2 days, and we can be critical without getting upset.
It's therapeutic. We're reaching the acceptance stage. And in this case, let's finish and let's get a little angry and take it out on the Steelers.
Absolutely. Let's get healthy too. But everyone, speaking of healthy, everyone stay safe. We love you all. It looks like I'm like a anime dub right now. So we're going to get on out of here. Love you all. We'll see you next time. And go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.